Hey everyone, welcome back to the video. Today I'm going to be doing my VCT EMEA power rankings for week 4, I think it is now. Man, the season feels like it's flying by, at least for EMEA. I mean, Pacific is the same way as well, but yes, heading into week 4. I had to double check that. But yeah, was a very interesting week in EMEA, a lot of very close games, a lot of not very high quality games in a few games examples that we'll get into. But overall, looks like this region is actually very close together in terms of if you're gonna watch any given game, it will probably end up being close just based on how close the middle of the pack is together in EMEA. I guess the middle table to bottom table teams are very close together. But yeah, before we get into it, if you guys enjoy, make sure to leave a like and subscribe. Really helps me out. Also, go check out my Twitter and my Discord. Links are in the description. I post weekly player rankings on both of those. I just posted my EMEA ones as of recording this, and then I'm going to just finish up watching the Pacific and Americas games tonight, and then I'll have both of those posted. So by the time this video's out, all 3 regions will be posted as well, so you can go check all of that out if you're interested in that, as well as my Twitch. I sometimes stream on both my YouTube and my Twitch, so whichever you prefer, you can go follow one of those. I also put out notifications for all my content on my Discord, so if you're interested in any of that stuff, go check that out in the description, and let's get right into it. All right, starting with this OK teams tier, where it's just a bunch of teams that can get you some close results within EMEA, but probably will either just sneak into playoffs or are kind of on the edge of it, whether they will or won't make it, depending on their group, obviously. Because I think some of these teams are in better spots than others, just based on the teams they've played and whatnot. And that'll start with Apex, who I still think are the worst team in EMEA, but they've had some very close results against a few good teams. Like the 3 of the 4 best teams that they've played, they've all had close games against. Specifically, this Liquid game, they easily could have 2-0'd this game. I think they should have won Ascent, honestly. Badu had a really, really bad map on that map, and if he was even a smidge better, I think they closed that out. And then Corrode, I mean, Liquid are really bad at that map, and I think Apex did a good job of taking advantage of that. And then Lotus was kind of just a stomp. I think part of this was Team Liquid kind of trolling the map veto, but also I think Apex actually looked pretty good and they had a clue of what's going on. I think Penny, Ali, and Molesy are actually pretty nice individuals for this team. I think Avova has some nice moments too. Is overall fairly consistent, but occasionally, once a game, will just do something so dumb that you cannot comprehend it. Then I have Koi still in this bottom group of teams. I am not as high up on Koi as everybody else is. I still think they're a solid team. I think they can get upsets within EMEA overall. But also, I'm never expecting them to. I guess I did expect them to last week, to be fair, just because I thought they'd have a pretty good map pool advantage on Carmine Core. And they were able to win on Lotus, but Sunset was really bad from them as it's been, and then Haven was also really bad from them. I think you were kind of heading into that game as Koi, maybe hoping that a KC would pick an Icebox or something, where that's actually one of your better maps. They did second round ban it, which was kind of weird to me. But overall, I think they're fine. They have a bunch of fine players, but nothing that I'm super excited about heading into these final few weeks of the season, especially because I really don't think they're making playoffs over any of these other teams. Let me look. Navi has Casey and Mike disconnected mid thing, but Navi has Casey and Koi left. Casey has Navi and Liquid left, which I guess technically maybe one of them could get a 1-up over Casey in a 3-way tie or something, in terms on round differential, but it'd need to be something really weird like that for either of these teams to make playoffs. And then this was kind of like a mini tier in and of itself. I usually do 5 tiers, but I cut it down to 4 because I think Gentlemates is also in this bottom tier with these teams where they can upset teams, but if they get to 12, then they look like terrible or like dog shit. Which happened again this week on Lotus against BBL, which it just can't keep happening. like they're playing well up until they get to 12, but then they just are just so desperate to get one round on the board that they just completely fall apart, and I just can't rank them any higher than this. There's really nothing else to it. Comeback looked a lot better. He was kind of disappointing for me in the first few weeks, but I did like how he looked in this game. The sunset for them was really bad as well, but overall, like they could beat some teams. I really don't think they're beating either their two teams left though, and Giants and Vitality. I think this team will be getting relegated at the end of the year. Then we have KC, who had a close game against Koi, another close game against one of the bottom feeding teams in EMEA. Maybe Apex and KC, or not Apex and Koi just have looked okay enough because they've played Carmine Core a few times, but I think Carmine Core's barely going to sneak into playoffs just by default because they have 2 wins and are over Apex and Koi already. Again, it would take some weird stuff for that to happen. Like, I think Navi would have to finish 2-3, Apex would have to finish 2-3, and KC would also have to finish 2-3, and then also KC would have to finish below Apex or Navi in terms of round diff, and I don't think they're going to do that because they're plus 17, Navi's -4, and Apex is -25, and Koi is -35. So I don't think KC is getting over any of those teams or going under any of those teams at any point throughout this season in terms of round diff. All right, now onto the solid teams tier, the biggest tier in this region, just because I think there's a lot of okay teams within EMEA. No, I mean, okay, like I get that the bottom tier is okay teams, and then it's solid, but there's a lot of like good, not great teams within EMEA. And that'll start with Navi. And I do realize that I fucked up the slideshow here, or the graphic here, where I have 4 teams in the big tier at the bottom, and then 5 teams in the smaller tier in the middle. I realize that now. I'm not gonna go back and re-record the first part or change this. You guys are just gonna have to deal with it, and so am I. It pisses me off just as much as it pisses you off. Um, but yeah, speaking of pissing me off, Navi. This team has so many like good players on it. Like Ruxic is very good. He started off the season a little rough, but has really grown into this smokes role for Navi. Hero, same deal. Started off the season a little bit rough, but has been amazing for this team since then. He kind of, I feel like he senti diffed Alpha Year in this game a little bit. Obviously, Alpha was amazing, but I think Hero also had an amazing game alongside him. And then also, I think Xiao is really good. He didn't play that great in this game, but he is very good. And then Alexic. I think Alexic is a good, maybe not great player yet, but I think he could grow into an even better role for this team. The issue that I have with them is mostly centered around Angel with like the weird comps that they play. Like I don't like the Omen on Bind. Their Ascent is pretty good and has always been good with Angel at the helm. Um, and then the Icebox, I mean, they did play really well. They just kind of weren't able to close it out against Fnatic, which I don't really blame them for. But like the Bind game, Angel was doing some weird ass shit. Like there was one round I specifically remember, because I was so annoyed by it. He just like it's a 5v4 for Navi, and he just decides to go just running at showers and just peek it on his own with no flash, no knife, no nothing like that, and just dies. And he looks like it's a Yoru clone because you can see it from Ruxic's POV as well, and it just looks really funny as well. But yeah, just not an ideal week for Navi. Even though like they're not in the worst spot to make playoffs, they play KC and Koi, 2 teams that I think they're better than, and should be able to at least win one of them. Then I have Vitality moving down 1 after losing their Foot this week. Just felt like Foot needed to be over them after they lost. Or no, sorry, they beat Foot last week. Holy shit, they lost to Heretics, which isn't that bad of a loss. And I thought they actually played pretty well within this game. Almost beat them on what is Heretics' best map in Haven. And then Ascent, they had a really nice attack half, at least the start, and then kind of fell off towards the end, and it was not great from them there. But I still think this team has a lot of potential playing against maybe not one of the top teams in EMEA. I think this is a big game for them against BBL, specific like a big test for them. Both 1 and 2 teams heading into this week, in a really big game for both of them, especially in terms of making champs. Then We have Giants moving down a spot. I think they lost to Foot this week. Yes, they did. In a relatively close game as well. We're able to win on Sunset, but then kind of got ran down on the last two maps. Even winning pistol bonus on both of the opening pistol rounds of Haven and Bind, and just were not able to close it out, which is not ideal. I think their Bind comp got exposed a little bit, and also Foot's individuals, specifically Zeus, woke up quite a bit in this game, so kind of unfortunate to get them then. But I still think this team has quite a bit of potential, a lot of good young players in here, or at least like in terms of less experience and players that have room to grow. I think they have a lot of those. If I was this team in the offseason, though, I would be looking to make one maybe big upgrade at any slot, really. Maybe ideally like a duelist or initiator spot, just because Aura did not have a great game for them. I would expect him to be better in the future, and then to probably lock up or almost lock up a playoff spot against Gentlemates this week. Then we have Foot getting that win over Giants. I mean, pretty similar deal. We're able to destroy Giants on Haven and Vine. A big bounce back for Haven for them, but able to destroy them on both of those maps, even after losing pistol bonus on both of them. So, really good week for Foot. Zeus, big deal that he kind of woke up in this game. Wasn't like top fragging for them or anything, but looked actually good in a game for once. So that's a big positive for them. Fallen played better individually than last week. Cracks looked really good. CNED looked good. And I think Yedishe had a nice day as well. So overall, good week for Foot. Then moving on to BBL. What did they do this week? They beat Gentlemates, which I'm not going to say is a big accomplishment at this point. They were able to destroy them on Sunset, and then Lotus, they probably should have lost and would have lost against any other team. Now, do I think they still win Ascent after that? Probably. But it's just, I think this team is worse than maybe I expected them to be heading into this split. Now, would it still be a shock if they missed playoffs? I would say so. Two very big games for them against Vitality, and then the Turkish Derby week 5 against Foot. If they win one of those games, they're probably in playoffs. Let me look at the standings. Actually, maybe not. They might need to win both games. Barring what Gentlemates does, if BBL wins one game, goes 2-3, then it's between them and Vitality for the last slot. Maybe Foot loses out to Heretics and BBL. That could also be possible. There's a very real likelihood that the last playoff spot comes down to BBL versus Foot in that last week of the season. Also, Giants maybe could sneak in there, but I really doubt Gentlemates is going to be able to close the game out against them. So overall, a little bit worried about BBL. I still think they're a top 4 team in EMEA, but not good enough to get into this like champs contender or a team that should win EMEA. Now, onto the final 3 teams here. Well, we'll start with Team Liquid. I think they're a pretty simple conversation in the fact that, like, they do seem to be a good team. Like, their game against Navi was amazing from them. But there have been some wonky games within there, like their game against Koi, where they lost on a map that was really good for Koi, and then kind of destroyed on their other 2 maps. Navi, they just destroyed on the 2 maps. But then they play some maps that I like outside of Lotus against Apex, which they absolutely smashed on. I don't think were actually very good maps for them. Like Corrode, I think they kind of got tricked into it being good by beating Navi, who were really bad at that map. Like, I don't really think that they're good at Corrode. I don't think that they're that great at, like, I mean, they're really good at Bind. They're really good at Lotus. I think they're decent at Haven, and they're okay at Corrode and okay at Ascent. And then Icebox is like here or there, depending on how they end up playing. So like, I don't think they really leaned into their best maps. I think Apex, in terms of a map pool perspective, was not a great matchup for them. But also, I don't think Team Liquid did a great job in the map veto. But overall, as a team, I actually think they're pretty good. Do I think they'll beat Fnatic this week? I think they're a little too inconsistent to do that. But I think week to week, this team is one of the 3 best teams in EMEA. I do have Heretics slightly edging them out this week, though. I've been very firm on the fact that Liquid has been better than Heretics all split up until this point. where Heretics just looked like a really good team against Vitality. Not really much else to say about it, honestly. Rien's looked insane. Woot was really good. Mini Boo had that funny moment with the ISO ult, but otherwise was really good. And I think Benji and Boo did their jobs. Benji's been kind of quiet this year overall, but I think he still has those highlight moments and is still pretty good for this team overall. And then we have Fnatic, best team in EMEA. Not really too much else to say about it. They did have a close game against Navi this week. I don't really think they're trying their hardest. I'm pretty sure they're guaranteed for champs. That could be wrong. Actually, I can literally look. Liquid VCT Champions Points 2025. They are not guaranteed yet, but I would be completely shocked if they didn't make it. It would basically need like two teams that are not in the top three to make the final, and then Liquid and Heretics to get third and fourth. So, I mean, like, take with that what you will. Like, it's an insane scenario for Fnatic to not make champs here. So I would say that they're pretty much guaranteed at this point. So, yeah, these are my power rankings for this week. Let me know what you think in the comments below. And now onto the pick'ems. All right, now onto the pick'ems, where there's some really close. Like, I think every game is a pretty tough call in EMEA this week, just because of like the certain matchups that we've gotten. Now, I think the easiest one is Foot Heretics, where I'm just gonna pick Heretics until against everybody other than Fnatic until they prove me wrong. I just think they're too good to lose to Foot, even though Foot did play pretty well last week. They are a little bit streaky of a team. So I will say that Heretics will win this game. I think that's probably the consensus opinion. I think it's like a 65-35 game at best. Then I'll have Koi over Apex. Another game that I think is like 65-35. This should actually be pretty interesting. If I would imagine Koi should be banning Sunset in this game, even though their permaban is Bind, I believe. Yeah, so both teams ban Bind in this game, which is really weird. Especially when these teams are so like inconsistent across their map pools. Like you have like Koi, who's really bad on Sunset and Haven, where Apex is actually really good on Sunset. We haven't seen their Haven yet this split, but Koi's also really good at Icebox, and Apex is really bad at Icebox. So we're gonna see some really bad maps in this game. I think Ascent, you could see Apex winning on. Actually, the more I look at this, the more I like the map pool for Apex, but it literally entirely depends on who gets Team A and who gets Team B, or if one of the teams decide, hey, we're not going to play Bind. Because if a team goes into that risk and the other team doesn't, they win this game 100%. Because if Koi is banning something and it's not Bind, it should be Sunset. Like, just by default against any team, and especially against Apex, because Apex's best map is Sunset. Also, I'm spending way too much time on Koi Apex. Basically, if one team leans into banning a map other than Bind, I think they win this game. But I think I would favor Koi in a scenario where neither team does. Also, I think Koi, are they the higher seeded team? Or did they go 0-5 last split? I think they're the higher seeded team. Apex also went 0-5, right? Or literally went 0-5. Koi didn't. Yes. Okay. So Koi is the higher seeded team. I think they end up banning the second map here, and end up not banning Bind. So then I have Giants over Gentlemates. I really don't feel good about it because I think outside of when Gentlemates gets to 12, they've actually looked better than Giants all split. And I think Gentlemates has that like top tier talent in terms of comeback that can really win them a game over Giants who don't have that like guy other than maybe Grabinho that you could say. So there is upset potential in this game, but I feel okay about picking Giants. Like, I think they're the favorite. I think they should win this game, but it's not the best feeling in the world for that game. Then I have Navi over KC. Similar deal, but I feel better about Navi in this game than I do about Giants. Like, I mean, it's not great that KC bans Ascent, which is Navi's like second best map. But both teams are really good at Icebox. I'd imagine we see that in this series. Both, I mean, dude, if Sunset gets through in this series, that's not going to be good. I just think that Navi has the advantage in the map pool on Icebox and Bind. which you should see in this. Maybe you'll see a Haven where I think Casey's slightly better. Um, but I think overall Navi's over just the better team. Then Vitality BBL. I don't know if this is going to be a little bit of an upset pick, but I'm going to pick Vitality in this game. BBL just hasn't looked very consistent at all, like throughout their maps. Like they'll have individual pop-off games that kind of drag them through, but their overall macro, especially on the attacking side, is really bad on some of their maps. I have really not liked Yampi's calling so far this split, and I think if you get Vitality on a Haven and or a Lotus, which I think could be the first two maps, Haven and Lotus, where Vitality picks Haven and then BBL picks Lotus. I think that's pretty possible. But I think if you get uh, Haven and Lotus in here, I think Vitality should be able to win this game against BBL. Then I have Fnatic over Team Liquid. I'm not really going to look too much into the map pool here. I mean, I really expect to see Lotus and or Bind. I favor Fnatic on both of those maps ever so slightly. Maybe Liquid on Bind. Actually, I do favor Liquid on Bind. And both teams, like, Fnatic's going to get a little bit less out of their ban, but I think Ascent I favor Fnatic on, especially with how Liquid looked against Apex. Sunset, though, could get a little bit weird as well, but I don't think the map pool's super in favor of Fnatic. I think they're good on all the maps that they've played, but Sunset has been a map that they've kind of struggled on historically, and no team has really picked into yet. So you could very much see Liquid winning this game as well. So let me know what you guys think of my pick'ems in the comments below, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.